Welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. We are on episode 60. Episode 60, Chris. The 60. Is that a landmark episode?
I think so. Yeah. Doesn't feel as big as 50, but it's something.
Yeah, let's try to get to 100 and then we can maybe throw a party and invite three people.
Yeah, sounds good.
How's it going, man? You alright?
Yeah, it's going alright. How's things with you?
I've got the week off work, so that's nice. Hoping to move house at the end of April, so
Fingers crossed
time
for you.
off to using the time to just try and get a bit organised, do some clear outs. What about you? Been up to much?
You know, you and I have been busy doing podcast stuff, so that's been cool.
Yeah, had quite a busy run of it recently.
There's
a bit of a busy run coming up as well.
Yeah, we got a few guests lined up, which is always a good thing.
Ideal scenario when trying to move house.
Yeah, nice timing for you.
Let's hope like broadband providers doing home moves don't let us down.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Although your broadband provider's letting you down at the moment, right?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, obviously I won't go into that because it'd be a boring story, but we had no broadband over the weekend and all into Monday, and that's when we were recording this episode for the interview for this on Monday night, and we'd had it put for a while, and then my internet wasn't working. I was working off my partner's hotspot, and I was like, is it going to last for this? But it came back on, so it was all good.
You said you weren't going to get into it because it was.
I know. I realised that as I was saying it, so apologies.
And you do realise I work in telecoms as well, so actually it's not that boring at all. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll save the details of that for when we're off air. Let's keep things music based. Anything caught your ear recently?
Not really. No, I'm going to be honest. I did see All Time Low releasing a new song tonight. I've heard a little snippet of that.
Oh, it's out already at time of recording. Yeah, I listened to it on my run.
Oh, okay.
It was cool. Very very pop, but that's what you expect from All Time Low these days.
Yeah, and obviously I checked out the Maine's new song, which was released
on the 19th. On the 19th, that came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I checked that out. Obviously, our guest today. It's a cool song. Looking forward to hearing the record coming out in
July 9th, I think it is. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Obviously, more about that coming up shortly on this podcast. Yeah. The one song that impressed me and I was surprised was that Magnolia Park song. Did you listen to that?
Oh, okay. No, I haven't got into it yet. Are they put together like a full length or?
It's like 6 songs, so it's like a long EP. But I think they, because obviously they had a song with Kel and Quinn, which they used the platform where you can pay to have features on, and they look like they've done that for a couple of their songs, and they've got the Broadside singer on this one, and they presumably using the same platform. I think it's a great pop song. I've listened to it so many times the last couple of days. I'm really curious to see what you think of it. So you have to let me know on our next show. Okay.
They must be spending a lot of money at the moment on these guest singers that they're bringing in. Is that how it works? So you just pay for them up front? Was it like
I don't know.
Me kind of situation?
Well, we'll be able to, we've got Oliver from Broadside on our show soon, so we'll be able to ask what it's like on the other side of that of that platform, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, man. And it looks like they're putting a lot of money into their band because it's got another fancy video with it and everything. So
right,
they're clearly.
Okay. And what's the site or platform they use to get these artists in?
I think it was called Feature X. I think
Feature X.
Yeah, Google that and tell me if that's looks like it.
Online booking platform for song features.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interesting tactic. Like if you're an up and coming band, like to try and because it's got some big names on Features X or whatever it's called.
I'm just having a look.
If you can get the big name to agree to come on your track by paying them and then sharing it, it's a good way of getting your name out there, I suppose. If you're serious about making your band get somewhere.
Scrolling through the list here and seeing who the first person is I recognise. Haven't found any yet. I've seen Kellen Quinn's face.
Oh yeah.
I'm more keen to see like what the actual terms and costs are. I'm not sure if you can actually
I'm just looking myself now, and I can see it. There's so many people. I've just hit on vocalists, and just on the A's, there's so many people on there.
Even the drummer from Sleeping with Sirens is on here.
Oh, is he?
Oh, hit the lights, Nick Thompson. There you go. You can book him. How much do you reckon he is? It's got the prices and everything.
Okay, let's okay.
How much? Come on, let's have a guess. Nick Thompson from Hit the Lights.
I've just seen how much Kellen Quinn is, and I think the bloke from Magnolia Park, when he was on our show, actually told us this because the figure sounds right. So based on that, I'm going to make a guess for Nick from Hit the Lights. I reckon he's going to be about $200.
Ooh, not far off. So $300 without writing and $400 with writing.
Oh, okay. Kellen's $800.
Drummers, guitarists, vocalists. Bit weird to get a guest drummer on. I suppose, like you say, there's just because you haven't got their vocals. Actually, it's just good PR, isn't it?
It's because that's really popular in music now. With the track name featuring, the amount of people that get to say featuring Travis Barker now. I guess it's like a small level of that.
Yeah. You're paying for the PR as much as you are the workmanship and the art, the artistry. I guess really.
Yeah.
Interesting world that's opened up, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I get it. If you're in you're in a 5-piece band, and someone's on there for $500 to pay £70 each. It's tempting. I can see it's the worth of it.
Brandon Saller, a trio singer. Yeah. Price available on request.
Oh, okay.
I wondered, surely artists and singers, what if they hate the song?
They must have they'll have the rights to turn it down, I should imagine.
Yeah. Because there must surely a lot of what comes through here are terrible songs.
Surely, yeah.
From just people with a bit too much money, and what rights? I guess what's the situation with rights over that music and what have you?
Yeah, exactly. That'd be interesting to know.
There's lots of questions, isn't there, from this? Anyway,
shall we get into today's interview?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we had John O'Callaghan, singer of The Maine, also has a side project called John the Ghost. The Maine had been around for years, had a really successful career, so we were excited that he was able to give us some time and come on our show. Spoke to him earlier this week, and here it is. I suppose, we could just get into it. Thanks again for giving us some of your time, and Chelsea from your company reached out to us a little while ago and asked about having you on the show, and we just jumped at it because it's exciting booking for us. Obviously, you've had a lot going on recently, which we'll get into. Yeah, I guess I'll just ask firstly about. So you just mentioned that you live in Phoenix. How's home life at the minute? How's things with COVID? How are you at the minute?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Phoenix right now is. Well, you can hear my dog whining, but it's not as hot as it normally is, which is crazy. Which is why I'm donning the jacket. It's pretty windy today. Sorry, my dog is. Yo, you gotta chill out.
It's all good.
Phoenix is. I don't know. It's interesting living in. I'm sure just. You live in a bubble, wherever you are, you live in a bubble. And I feel unfortunately, my parents got COVID months ago, but fortunately they were okay. So,
okay.
I haven't known too many people to actually contract it and to be really, really, affected by it. Fortunately,
Mm-hmm.
I guess COVID in my world is it's less abstract because it happened to people that I know.
Okay.
But like I said, fortunately, everybody's good, and we're just really excited about new music.
Where were the Maine at then in terms of kind of when things grinded to a halt? Do you have much going on in terms of shows or anything? Like, what was the situation before it kind of got cut off?
It was kind of a trip because we were in Europe at the time. So we were in Europe at the end of February last year in 2020. We had just finished up like a month of shows, and we were almost like a week in front of these COVID cases that kept happening. We were getting nervous because, the more information started coming out, the more we were like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get home. So fortunately, we got home. We left probably, it was almost like a year ago to the day, probably like the beginning of March is when we finished that whole tour. We got back home and we were like, we're thinking, okay, we'll be good because now that was the last record, tour of our last record. We're like, okay, we'll get together, we'll make a new one, and then in a couple months we'll start gearing up to release it. And then of course, if anything 2020 has taught us, it's that your plans don't really mean that much. It's like you can plan all you want, but then life happens and you gotta adapt and adjust. So we ended up getting together and making a record, and we quarantined together. So that was the big thing, is like for the first time ever, we were making a record in Phoenix, our hometown. And we had all these, we're going to be able to go home to our homes every night, to our significant others, and it's going to be awesome. And we ended up having to adapt and say, hey, we're going to spend 2 weeks at my place. We kicked my wife out. She let us take over our house. And then we lived in a house in Gilbert for 30 days, and we made a record, and we just had to adjust. And so the record's been done for a minute, and then we were figuring out how to put it out. And then we ended up getting it remixed a couple times. And so, the nice thing is that we had been home for the most time ever in the 14 years that we've been a band, which is rad. Yeah. So, but we're all very, very antsy to get out again for sure. We fortunately, I don't know if you can, here, let me see if I can take off this background. But I'm actually in our studio that we ended up being able to buy nice. This past year. Yeah, so we bought a house in Phoenix, and it just kind of was super harmonious. My friend's a real estate agent. He found this house that nobody wanted to buy because it had a recording studio in it. And we're like, well, our lease on our recording studio is coming up. So it's like, perfect. We had to scrounge some money together, and we ended up buying a studio. So for all the negative that happened in 2020, we were very, very fortunate to have some positive come out of it, for sure.
One other positive I saw you did in 2020, you got married towards the end of the year?
I did. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we had we had planned again with the plans, but we planned a full big old bash that ended up getting squashed. So we ended up just doing what I guess they started dubbing like a micro wedding, right. Which just means a very small wedding. So we ended up getting married in October, and super, super happy.
Whenever this does come up with guests, like 2 questions I like to ask, generic wedding questions, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
What was the first dance you guys had, and what food did you have for your wedding?
So the first dance was to a song called "I Choose You" by Willie Hutch. It was a great song, and we kind of we dubbed that our song, as corny couples do. Of course. And then what we ate, we had stuffed mushrooms. I've sort of fallen off the horse recently, and I kind of started to eat meat again, but I was on a pretty strict vegetarian, sometimes vegan vibe. So not everybody ate stuffed mushrooms, but I got the mushrooms.
Cool. Well, I guess getting out of the COVID stuff, what we usually do with these things is kind of go right back and go back to the start, I guess, really. So I guess tell us a little bit about kind of where you grew up, kind of your first introduction to music, and what you were kind of listening to and what influenced you when you were kind of younger?
Yeah, man. Well, I was born and raised here in Phoenix, which is kind of an anomaly. It's kind of like it's really strange to meet somebody that was born and raised in Phoenix.
Right.
I don't know for what reason. I'm not sure. I think it's because it's too damn hot here, but people like end up, once they turn 18, they get the hell out. But I was, I don't know, big into sports in high school. Like I played a lot of baseball, and it probably wasn't until, it was probably like middle school when I started to really get into like finding my own music. I remember being a lot on like mp3.com and then like other torrent sites. So like Kazaa and LimeWire. I would rip a lot of music. I was pretty notorious. I probably should, the feds probably should have come to my house. It probably wasn't that crazy. I had older cousins that played the guitar that sort of that inspired me to want to play music. They were like the cooler older cousins in bands and always into like whatever was kind of cool at the time. I remember like asking my mom if I could get a Rage Against the Machine record. And then when she heard the lyrics, she's like, absolutely not. So then I would always listen to, those kind of records with my cousins. My dad always had music playing at the house, and not necessarily musical, but he's certainly like an avid listener. So I think that's where my desire for like new music comes from. I guess it wouldn't have been until I have friends that played in bands in middle school. And so I would go to live shows watching their stuff. I was always front row. And it wasn't until late high school and then my first year of college where I was like, hey, maybe I could be in a band. And it was sort of like a fleeting thought. Yeah, I ended up getting kind of drunk at a college party, and I told my manager, has been my best friend since 6th grade. I was like, hey, your younger brother's in a band, right? And he's like, yeah. Like, hey, I'd like to try out for their band. And then, he blew it off as like that you're just drunk. Hungover the next day, I ended up going and trying out. And when that first summer came around to go on tour, we just decided we were going to do it. And nobody came to the shows, and it was amazing. It was beautiful.
And that was the Maine, was it?
Fast forward, yeah, that was the Maine. Yeah, fast forward 14 years, and here we are.
Wow.
Yeah, putting out record number. I'm almost losing count at this point.
Yeah, 8. It's
8
pretty
is
gnarly.
it now? Wow, yeah. Did Fearless kind of come on board like pretty early in that?
Yeah, so to tour, like I said, nobody showed up, but it was like things were kind of picking up for us online. MySpace was huge at the time, and we would spend a lot of hours every day talking to people, messaging, reaching out. Yo, have you heard this song? Are you familiar with our band? Yada, yada. So we definitely put in the hours online. And I think that started to correlate with, people finding out about us, starting to play our music, starting to share our music. And I think that was when we gained the attention of some independent labels, and Fearless was sort of like, the one that when we met with all of them, it felt like they actually gave a shit, like they actually cared, and they were familiar with our music, and they were, into the idea of wanting to like, build a career and not just have sort of a flash in the pan kind of thing. So it just felt, and to be honest, that's what kind of convinced our parents to let us go drop out of school. The fact that momentum kind of happened relatively quickly was like, it wasn't just automatically like, hey, you're playing in front of hundreds of people. It was like, no, but we're building towards something, and we're all, hopefully it's going to be a real thing.
So when did you really start to feel, obviously you said you kind of were touring to empty rooms. When did you kind of pick the momentum there after the kind of online presence had built up a little bit?
Kind of in the same way that like we've just put out music and not really giving people an opportunity to not hear from us. We kind of did the same thing on the road, and we did a couple. I guess we really didn't do like a proper headliner until a few years into our band, but we did. I would say like the big turning point, or like the moment that I was like, holy crap, like this might be for real. We got to open on a tour, excuse me, called The Soundtrack of My Summer Tour. And that was it was us opening, Metro Station was 2, and then Good Charlotte was 3, and Boys Like Girls were 4. And it was kind of like this culmination.
I had a feeling this would be the one that you would say, yeah.
Yeah, Metro Station was like, they had a huge, I think their song was number 1 at the time. People were tripping about them. Good Charlotte was like this timeless thing that was, they were coming back, and they could play a full set of just smashed, hits.
Of course.
And then Boys Like Girls was having a huge moment as well. So we were sort of like just lucky to be tagging along, not to say that like people weren't digging us, but it was like to be able to be on stage with all of them at once was really special. And it was definitely the moment that was like, wow, this could be for real.
How did you get on that tour? Was there just a random break, or?
To be honest, I can't pinpoint the exact moment. And I think in retrospect, now having been doing headliners on our own, I think what ends up happening is, inevitably there's something new, something fresh, a new band, new sound that people want to be a part of, to at least, give a shot to. And I think that was just our big shot at the time. That was like the moment, you don't get to go back and be like the rookie again, and I think that was like our rookie moment.
When you look back at like the sound that you guys had back then, how do you feel about that now? Do you look back and are you super proud of it, or are there bits that make you cringe or whatever? I only say that because I listen to your voice over the years, and I feel like the way you sing has changed a little bit. I don't know if that's fair to say.
Sure.
Because you listen to that like the early EPs and that first record, and not that I'm saying you didn't sing well, but it sounds to me like you're singing very much like Kenny from The Starting Line or something. Whereas it sounds to me like over the years you kind of found your own voice.
Sure. I mean, I think other artists and other people sort of have a one up on me because this is my first band. And so this has been my first opportunity to fail and succeed, both in the same kind of instance. So I didn't have the experience before. I didn't have when we recorded our first song, that was my first time being in a recording studio, and these experiences that I've been so fortunate to have, they've all been firsts for me, so playing my first show was like playing to somebody from Immortal Records, and that's both like something to be very proud of, but also something that's like a heavy responsibility to, for somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing, not to say I do now, but I'm certainly more confident in the songwriter that I've become and the singer and the voice that I have. I think as far as our music goes, I definitely struggled with wanting to shy away from it, like maybe in the middle stage of our band. And I think that's natural. I think you're always, I wasn't ever embarrassed, but I would have never played like, hey, have you heard my band? Here's our first record. I would have always played whatever was the most recent, because that's what, usually I'm most proud of or excited about.
Right.
But I think coming full circle, I think now it's all been a part of this story. It's all been a part of, my journey and our journey as a band. And I think much like, and I've referenced it and compared it to a yearbook photo, but it's like, I don't know, if you look back at your yearbook photo from freshman year of high school, you're definitely not going to say like, oh, I wish I had that haircut again, or I wish I was wearing those ridiculous clothes. But that in that moment, in that instance, in that period of time of your life, you were really into it. That's what you were doing. You were proud of who you were. You were excited about, what you were wearing and what you were thinking and what you were saying, and you believed in all of it. And so I think to say that I don't, I have an extreme fondness for who I was and who we were as a band.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's all part of, what's brought me to this moment here with y'all today. And it's something to, I think, be embraced and not to be, shying away from.
Cool. I guess so. Just going back to kind of those earlier years anyway, I mean, how long was it before from going from, opening on tours to actually getting your kind of first headline tour and things kind of moving on to the next level?
Yeah, we put on a tour, and actually, for the sake of fact checking, I'm just gonna look it up, so I give you the exact right dates. But we put on a tour called an Evening with the Maine, and that would have been in, let's see. Wow, the internet is crazy. That would have been 2010. That was like our first proper headliner. And that would have been like the moment that we were like, it's our show, we can do whatever we want. And that was sort of the beginning of headlining.
Yeah, and that would have coincided with the Howard Benson record, with it? Was that kind of
Black and White? Yeah.
Sorry.
And is that when kind of Warner Brothers kind of picked you up as well?
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird story. Fearless was, to our knowledge, about to sell, and they were about to upstream their whole catalog to, we weren't actually getting the real facts. It was just like, they might be selling to Atlantic, they might be selling to somebody, because they weren't about to show their hand to us. So it kind of put us in this position where we sort of took the stance of like, well, we kind of have to choose our own fate here. We want to go to where people want us. We want to go to where people actually want to be invested in what we're doing. So basically what we did was we said, hey, we got to go find some place that's going to actually enjoy our music, and not just carry it on like a tax write-off or something like that. So we went and did some I guess labels did courting to us, and Warner Brothers, again, just like Fearless, on our first record, Warner Brothers, I can vividly remember the meeting that we sat in. It was like a breakfast meeting, and the heads of every department were there. And the Warner Brothers offices are like, super, super ornate and rad and huge. Yeah. And there's posters of Green Day and Metallica and Prince on the walls. And, it's hard to not fall in love with the idea of being on a major label. So we ended up going and signing with Warner Brothers. Fearless ends up they opted not to sell their company. And so we kind of, whatever, we could say we got screwed, but it, again, it led us to this point. And we did that second record. It was sort of a one-off, because after that Howard Benson record, everybody from Warner Brothers that we worked with pretty much got fired, and there was a new head and new people of every department. So then when we were again left high and dry, we kicked and screamed to get off the label, and we ended up succeeding in that. And that's when we kind of hit the independent DIY route.
Is that kind of the time that you formed 8123? And
yeah, that was kind of the birth of 8123 Records, and sort of leaning into the idea of, well, it's clear that nobody is going to have our best interest other than ourselves, other than maybe our folks. And they didn't have a record label. So we were sort of forced into creating our own. So that was like yeah, for all intents, that was the start of it.
Okay. It's broadly like your management company and you've put on festivals and tours via it, so it's kind of...
Yeah, it's kind of an all-inclusive thing.
Yeah.
It's to be honest, it's just like any outlandish ideas that we have, we can slap that label on it, and it's like, oh, now we do this too. For the last record, we opened up like an actual proper kind of like store, and we had all of our merch and we had exclusive items, and it was an actual storefront. It's just been, and what's crazy to me, again, this being my first band, is that 8123 was literally just the street address of a parking garage that my buddies and I in high school used to go to and smoke cigarettes and talk shit and just like be teenagers at. Fast forward and see all these people with the numbers tattooed on their skin and them forming their own sort of groups is such a wild, something that I still can't fully comprehend, and I probably won't ever, if at all, but certainly not while I'm still in the thick of it, not while we're still like operating at full steam. I'm sure like once I'm old and well, I guess older and looking back on it all, I'll be able to fully sort of appreciate it, and it's just a trip for sure.
I mean, it must be coming on for almost 10 years now then.
Yeah. So we ended up having 8123 Fest, which was the festival that you had mentioned. And the first one that we did, it was sort of downtown Phoenix is starting to sort of have, or was, I guess, prior to the pandemic, was having this revival of live music. And there were brand new venues that were popping up, all run by the same people, that were really rad and great spots to see music at. And they kind of scaled it so that they would have, there's Valley Bar, which is like, I think 250. And then there's Crescent Ballroom, which might be around 700. And then they have the Van Buren now, which is, I think, about 2,000. So they have venues for all sorts of different size bands. We did the first festival with kind of in sort of in tandem with those people that run those venues. And the first one was a crazy success. Like, I think we had close to 3,000 people there from all over the world. People from, Brazil to Australia to everywhere in between. The second one was even crazier. We got to bring more bands and bigger acts, and it I think doubled in size almost. And so we were actually gearing up to have the third one. And then obviously everything happened and we had to postpone. So we're super, super excited for whatever's to come once, the world starts making sense again.
Obviously, I want to talk quite a lot about, the stuff that's really current and recent that you've just done. But just before we get to that, I'm not going to go through your whole career and stuff because we'll be here all night. But just a couple of questions before we get to the modern stuff, if that's cool with you, John.
Yeah.
I guess this is of obvious interest to Nick and I. Just given that you have toured the UK, I feel like quite a few times. So I'm just, I want to ask about what your first experience to come to the UK was like, and just what your relationship with the UK is like. Because I was just looking at your Instagram the other day, and you were resharing that monologue you had from like 8 or 9 years ago, the said and done.
Yeah.
I could see like it was in the UK. I couldn't make out what town it was.
I forget. Somebody actually commented in it and was like, "Hey, that's my hometown." And now I'm completely going to blank on the name of it. But the very first time we went over there, this was pre iPhones, pre like these really smartphones. So, or it might have been, it might have been the first generation of iPhone or whatever it was. I didn't have one either way. So I had to buy like a burner phone that I didn't even use. We didn't have like the ability to. We were going over there with We the Kings and the Academy Is. We were super hyped because we were going to be on a bus. And I think that was our first time on a bus.
Oh, okay.
We got there, and I think I'm not exaggerating. I think we ate Subway at least 90% of the time that we were there. We were all just like super, we didn't really leave the bus as far as like we would stick to the venue and maybe a coffee shop if we could see it. But we didn't have these things that now are like little computers and you can kind of just say, hey, like cool coffee place. And it goes like, oh yeah, it's right around the corner. You dumbass, like just go around the corner. So we were definitely introverted and nervous. And actually what's funny is my family came and they spent time. I think the first show was at a club called Club Ifalbach. And I forget what let me check it again with the ability of being able to double check. Club Ifalbach. Let's see. It's in Cardiff. So that was the very first show. And I remember getting off the bus and we're like bringing our stuff down a little alleyway. And my parents said like, oh yeah, that's the show we'll meet you at. And again, I didn't have a phone. If I did, I didn't use it. There was no way of talking. So we're wheeling our stuff down this little cobblestone kind of road. And in comes my family. And it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And again, I think those were the moments that my parents and our parents were like, okay, they're doing like, they're in a real band. They're like actually touring and he's not just lying and like going to his friend's house, you know? But I guess then, you know, fast forward to, I guess even this past year, last February when we were there, it's like we got to a point then where we'd been so many times that things started to get stale and we started to get a little jaded. And we're, you know, the things that then as a tourist ourselves for so many years, you know, we felt like we had seen everything or, you know, we had seen the other things that tourists see. We'd been to whatever, but we had a different drummer because our drummer was expecting his first baby girl. And we had a drummer that had never been overseas before. And to have that, like that feeling again of somebody being like so in love with every day that they were waking up was a real huge breath of fresh air for us. And it made us, you know, appreciate the fact that we were able to tour for people, you know, thousands of miles away from where we are from. And it was definitely like a great reminder of how fortunate we actually are as a band. It was really, really special for sure.
Have you like developed a formula over the years in terms of touring? Obviously, I guess when you're younger, you just can go hard as you can, and I guess you hear a lot of bands just burning out, and that's the end. Is there anything you've changed? Like, how do you approach how much you tour?
For sure. I guess with just being young and being able to party every night and not feel it the next day, that's certainly not the case anymore. If I drink too much, I'm feeling it for 2 days after, at least 2 days.
No, I get it.
So that's definitely changed.
I was listening to you say that on your podcast the other day. Yeah, and I was relating.
Yeah, I definitely can't go as hard, which is a good thing because now, you know, my sort of like wild youth has faded, but I found somebody that I want to spend the rest of my life with. So it's been this good sort of transition into finding whoever I'm going to be in this next chapter. You know, and now I found that out, but then touring stopped. So now it'll be interesting once we go back out on tour.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a work in progress for sure.
Well, speaking of the next chapter, I guess, you know, let's talk about some of this new stuff you've got coming out. Firstly, I just want to ask about you did that online concert on Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
Like just obviously want to know how that went, and then I get because you went for like the free approach, didn't you? With fans having the option to donate, and like, you know, not every artist does it like that. Was that something important to you that you wanted to put it out there for free? Because I was watching like the production of it earlier, and like, you know, that could, you know, must have, obviously you would have put some money into that, setting it up.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely wasn't free to film.
Right. No, it didn't look it.
But, you know, it's always been sort of our approach to be accessible in every facet, I think, of what we do. You know, it's been important for us to go outside after shows and say thanks for coming, meet people, and do, you know, just talk. Because again, this being sort of my first band, it's never made sense to me why some artists treat themselves like something more than a human, you know? So do you guys care if I take my dog, just let her out of the room for 1 second? Sorry. She's going to still cry. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's fine, man.
My dog's snoring on the sofa right now. I'm surprised you can't hear her.
Normally she would be, but she's either got to go to the bathroom or somebody got here. What was I saying? Sorry.
So you're talking about the so you said you want to be accessible to fans, and then you're talking about seeing other artists who think they're more than a human stuff. I was tempted to ask, you know, who you've toured with over the years who would fall into that category, but I feel I don't want to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, the list would go on. And it's not to say that we're. It really just boils down to the idea that we're human beings doing something very abnormal for a profession.
Right.
I think, you know, well, you do hear stories about, like, I guess, celebrity artists that take advantage of people's socioeconomic situations. You know, like, it shouldn't be that rich people only get, I guess that's the way the world sometimes works, but for our band, money shouldn't really factor into the idea of being able to listen to us. You know, if you can scrape together whatever, $10 for a CD, then that's, you know, you get everything that somebody with $10 million should be able to get in our view. So, sure. I guess with the free concert, we just also wanted to maybe rope in some people that we've lost along the way, you know, appeal to some people that might have fallen out of love with our band, or just lost touch somewhere along the way. So it was just we felt like it was a good reintroduction for our band, you know, considering we had done a few live streams, but we hadn't put out new music in a minute. So it was a good, like, hey, we're back, you know, let's hope that people watch, and it's for free, so you don't have to pay anything. So
do you kind of feel like a bit more pressure that if you hit a wrong note singing, or someone hits a bum string or whatever, there's a bit more pressure because, like, obviously people can notice it more than on a live show? But I'm talking to a seasoned professional who's been doing this for 14 years, so maybe you ain't going to think about stuff like that.
No, the thing is that it should feel live, you know? But also we're able to, like, we have 9 different camera angles, and the experience feels different, you know, and it's not just one shot straight on. And so we definitely exploited the idea that we have this luxury of, like, here's somebody up in the rafters, you know, getting a shot of overhead. But as far as the performance, it's like I didn't drink before the show, which is very strange. You know, it's like a sober set is, and that's not, I don't abuse alcohol, but
sure.
It definitely
just
helps.
Loosens you up a bit.
Yeah. So to be sober was definitely, like, I was more probably in my head than I should have been. But we hadn't played a few of those songs we hadn't never played Sticky before. We hadn't played Into Your Arms for several years. So it was definitely, like, it was probably more nerve-wracking for us than we should have let it get to us. But I watched it yesterday, And I was happy with the way that it all turned out. And Lupe Bustos, who helped film and direct everything, he's, and I actually texted with him. It's crazy to kind of see how far he's come since Warped Tour in 2016, when he was just doing merch, assisting for Mayday Parade. And we said, hey, we like the pictures that you take. You want to come out on tour with us? And we were just kind of just reminiscing about the idea that it's the same story as ours. You start out and you have no idea what you're doing, but you just keep trying and you keep giving it, literally everything that you have. And, fortunately people are still listening, and we have people like Lupe in our camp that are willing to go to the lengths that we go, and willing to get into the weeds with us. And everybody at 8123, Chelsea and Tim and everybody in between. Those are the people who help kind of perpetuate what we've got going.
It's cool. It's like you got like a good little family around it. Obviously, you mentioned Sticky there, which at the time of recording, your brand new song came out a couple of days ago. Like, how are you feeling about, how's the reception been to that so far?
It's been rad. I mean, again, we all live in our own little bubbles. So I haven't seen in my bubble online, I haven't seen a ton of negative, which is really refreshing. It feels good that people aren't, throwing tomato emojis at us. So it's been great. And, I think it's just really nice to have it off of our plate creatively, like to get it out into the ether is like, that's a really good feeling. You have this thing that you've been holding on to and keeping secret for so long, and to get rid of it and to let people decide is even that is just a win, and that feels really, really great for us. So, and
you've got the full length coming out in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, July 9th. Yeah. Okay.
Was that always the plan, or?
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have been pushed back just a little bit by the state of the world, but we knew that we didn't want to have the record come out in 2020, even if COVID hadn't been a thing. We just felt like it was important to have more lead into it. And, this is definitely the longest I think that we've waited in between records, but it was really important to have that time. I don't think we overthought things too much, but we definitely got things to a place where we felt arguably the most comfortable that we felt on the release of a record. We having things move so quickly definitely impairs the ability to, have music videos and have, art look exactly like you want it, and have merch and have everything ready. You always feel like you're trying to like catch up to those things. And this is the first time we felt like we had it all, ready to go. And it'll be interesting to see how it evolves from where, it is right now and to where where it inevitably will go. So, and
come July, I guess the hope is that, the doors are open to venues again, potentially.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Have you got anything booked in, or
your guess is as good as mine, but
right.
Over here we're starting to see signs of light at the end of the tunnel. People are starting to get let into sporting events, at smaller capacities, of course, but things like that. Movie theaters are open. It's different state by state here too, that'll be probably tricky. Especially when bands start going back out on tour, but it's definitely there. There's more optimism now than I feel like I've felt in a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Similar, because I think both our countries seem to be moving quite fast with the vaccines and stuff. So it gives one hope, doesn't it?
For sure.
Just jumping back very slightly, but only like a month. Obviously, another thing you've done recently is you I know you've put out stuff with your solo project, John the Ghost, before, but is this the first? This was I guess it's almost a full length. Or was it 8 or 9 songs on it? You put out that record last month. how did John the Ghost kind of come about? Like, what made you want to? Because obviously, as you say, you've been pretty consistent with the Maine, putting out records.
Yeah, I guess the most glaring change and difference was time. I had an abundance of time for the first time in 14 years. And I love, don't get me wrong, I love being on the road, and I love touring and playing shows, but I think I love the studio the most. The studio has kind of become, especially now having the space, now it's become a place for me that feels like I'm like at least trying to be better every day, as trying to put more into my craft and to songwriting. So I had nothing but time. I had all of these demos because we were planning on making the Maine's record. And I think the record only has, John the Ghost has 9 songs. I think our record, and I'm not 100%, I think it has 10 or 11.
Okay.
So we, I probably had like 30 some odd demos, and some more thought out than others, some just, little bits here and there. But I knew I didn't want to waste them. And I knew the way things were going, I was going to have time, And the window was pretty small. Like you said, the record already, it came and went, kind of. Now my focus is on the Maine, but it was I guess if we're going micro wedding, it was like a micro cycle. It was a micro record cycle. But it was fun, man. It was fun to be able to do things just on my own. I had my buddy Matt Keller, who actually engineered the Maine's record. He helped me produce
the Maine record. I saw that.
Yeah. So he helped me produce this, and it was literally just kind of like almost like 10 days total. It was like, we did pretty much the music. We did pre-production and the music for every song. We allotted like a day. So for the first track, we had a day. We fleshed out the pre-production, and then we recorded the instrumentation, and then we moved on, and it was song 2 on day 2. And so just the process was really fun, and it was fun to experiment with, new approaches, and there's definitely more of an electronic vibe that kind of goes throughout. That differentiates from the EP that I did in 2016, which was definitely stripped back and more organic, for lack of a better word, but it was done in my bedroom, which was a garage at the time. They were really sad and slow, acoustic driven songs. And these were kind of more in line with sort of where my pop kind of sensibility was taking me this past year.
And I thought it was pretty cool that you had Dwayne on the track. Are you like old friends with him? Like, how did that come about?
No, so that was kind of a testament to the age in which we live. It was like pretty gnarly the way that it came together. I wanted to, I knew for that track specifically, for Here Gone, I wanted to have a feature on it. And I'm huge, like I'm a fan of all music, all types. And the track initially began as sort of an instrumentation, sort of like an instrumental version of a hip hop beat that I was just making. And then I wrote the hook to it, and I was like, well, maybe I could get away with just like putting it on my record. And I had left the third verse empty, and I wanted somebody to rap on it. And we were just kind of thinking of like, well, I know this person who knows this person. And it was like, that's maybe how we can get there. So we ended up, I reached out to him, and we set up like a session over Zoom. And he initially just, I think through the ways that management kind of communicates, he was under the impression that we were writing a song for him. And then I was like, hey, I got this song that like I would love for you to be on. And it ended up that we wrote a song, And then he agreed to do the third verse. So it was kind of just like, you know, we live in the day and age where you can connect with people in a moment's time and make relationships with people that you never would have been able to make, you know, by ways of the internet. So it was really rad. And I like, when I heard him send it back the first time, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I've never had that feeling where like you like write, you know, I've worked with other bands and other artists, but like I had always written the song with them, you know, and I had always like had at least an idea of where the melody was going to go. And this was the first time where it was just like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do something. And then he sent it over and I was like, that was not what I was expecting, but in the coolest way possible. So it was a really cool feeling.
Nice.
Very
cool. And you've started up a podcast as well recently as well. What's the stitch with that? Calling it a podcast is giving it too much credit. It's I don't know what it is. It's me just rambling in my room, and then really it's just a way for me to push music that I find on anyone willing to listen. So it's been fun, to be honest. It's been fun just kind of I haven't had a lot of time to find new artists, and that used to be like such an important part of the music process to me. It was like, you know, like I guess harkening back to where we were talking about the beginnings of things and where my, you know, first love for music kind of derives from is from finding out about, you know, story of the year, and you feel like you're the only person in the world that knows story of the year, and so you show all your friends, and then story of the year has a huge song, and now everybody loves them, and now you hate them, and now I got to go find somebody else, and now you know I have that like feverish kind of urge again to like find new music and but this time I want to share it with everybody. I don't want to keep it all to myself, you know. Cool.
Yeah.
So as you said, the new album XOXO, From Love and Anxiety in Real Time. Did I get that right?
Yeah. You got it. Yeah.
Out on the 9th of July. Single Sticky is already out to listen to now. What can we expect from the rest of the record?
Well, I think if you're familiar with our band and you've followed us for records, I think it's probably pretty safe to guess that you don't really know what you're going to get to a certain extent.
Right.
You know, on You Are Okay, the last record, heavily string forward. We had strings and it was very loud and in your face. And, you know, the record before that was very moody and still had a pop sensibility, but started from start to finish felt like a complete kind of unit of work. And I feel like we dipped a little back into that sort of mode of thought and that way of thinking. And I really wanted it to be something that you could put on from track 1 to 10 and feel like you were sort of along for some sort of story. And yeah, the pop sensibility is there for sure. It's but it definitely has its moody moments, and I think it lives up to the actual title. So yeah, it's so hard. You know, what's so hard is like trying to explain things that people haven't heard, you know, and trying to explain. It's like, hey man, buy this car. It's really cool. I can try to explain what it looks like, but you just got to trust me. Like, it drives well and it looks cool and it, you know.
Well,
so,
you don't want to give too much away either, really, you know.
No, that's true. That's true.
Presumably you've done this like 8 times now with each record.
I know.
Build up to it, so. You know.
Yeah, that's what's so hard. Is like, well, I want to tell you everything, and I want to, you know, show you. I just want to give you the freaking record right now.
Well, hopefully we'll get a European run from the record at some point.
No, absolutely. I'm very hopeful for that. Yeah.
Obviously, we covered most of the stuff we want to cover. We just kind of at the end just had like a couple of sort of random, sort of generic, quick-fire questions.
Random, you're not selling these set of questions here. Random, generic question.
Yeah, I know. I bet you just can't wait to take part in that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, Nick, unless there's anything left out that you want to cover.
You go with your quick fire questions.
Yeah, we can do that and then wrap this up, John, and if that's cool with you.
Lay it on me, yeah.
Awesome. So, like, we used to do this on all of our shows, and we've kind of stopped doing it a while ago. And I always enjoyed this part, so I'm just trying to bring it back. So
yeah,
sorry, you're in experimentation here, John. Sorry.
No.
If you let me know beforehand that we were doing it, then I would have come a bit more prepared, Chris.
Yeah, that probably would have helped.
So you're anyway. On your own here, I'm afraid, with these questions.
They'll really be random.
So first one is, what film could you watch over and over again? Like, what is your go-to comfort film that you can always watch?
One that pops into my head immediately, if we're going quick fire, I could always watch Pulp Fiction for some reason. It's like a movie that no matter how many times it's on, I can always watch it. That's not a feel-good film. I guess if we're going feel good, I could probably watch I Love You, Man.
Yeah,
I think that movie's that movie can just go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Like, that's the kind of one, if I ever catch it on telly or whatever, I end up...
It's like Paul Rudd at his best, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Like
it really is, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've never seen Pulp Fiction. That's
oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Or Big Lebowski. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, that would... Yeah.
There's three of them right there.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, that's what
I think I've watched that at least 20 times with you, Chris, over the years.
Yeah, back in the day.
There you go.
Yeah. So what would be your example, like your meal-wise, food heaven and food hell?
Food heaven, I'm a cheap date. If you give me grilled cheese and tomato soup, I'm pretty much in heaven. I would say food hell, considering I've been doing like a lot of the vegetarian vegan stuff. Like weird parts of animals, or just like animals. I don't know. I've been like, I wasn't as like, oh, that's cruel when I started the vegetarian thing. And then as I started to progress, I'm like, now I'm just, if I see a burger, I'm like, that poor cow. And I like see the face and I'm like, oh shit, man, this is sad. So, I'm going to go with like, I'm going to go with some gnarly parts of animals.
Yeah, as a vegetarian, I like that answer, I have to say.
Yeah.
Vegetarian, Chris? Are we not vegan at the moment? What's
yeah. Nick pulled me up on that. Like, I've tried to be vegan for about the last 4 years, and I was doing all right for a while there. And now I've just kind of sort of settled back into
vegetarianism. I never know. I never can tell, really.
Yeah. Last three ones, and this is all music based. So, I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but what would be contenders for your top 3 records of all time? Just
personally, I think Plans by Death Cab for Cuties in top 3. Mm-hmm. Oh God, that's so hard.
Yeah, I kind of put you on the spot a little bit there. Sorry about that.
No, I would say like top 3 bands. I could go with Rogue Wave is one.
Okay.
I love a band called The Districts. I think they're really, really rad, and they're happening right now.
I don't know them.
And I would say Steely Dan is in my top 3 bands. Yeah. Albums I'm gonna have to get back to you on. That's too. Yeah. I'm having anxiety thinking about it. So.
Yeah, no, that was unfair of me. All right, last 2. These hopefully be a bit easier. So, best live band that you've ever seen or toured with or played with, outside of you guys, of course.
Yeah, naturally. I would say. Well, I have a couple different answers for different reasons, but Steely Dan would be the best live performance I've ever seen, other than Tom Petty. And I got to see both like only a year or so before Tom died, and same with Steely Dan. So I would say some of the strongest bands we've toured with, I can kind of remember Dan Laius from a band called Augustana when we went on tour with them. He was probably the strongest vocalist I've ever been around on tour with. He had this ability to kind of effortlessly make it seem like he wasn't even really like trying to sing, and he would change up melodies every night. And the command that he had on his voice was kind of just like something to be really in awe of. So I guess those are different. Augustana, when Dan was still doing it, and yeah.
Last one. So you're going on tour with the Maine, and you can take 3 artists on this tour, dead or alive. Who are they going to be?
Can't say Steely Dan.
All right. Well,
they're excluded. We know you like Steely Dan.
Selfishly, I want to say Neil Young's going to headline, because I've never seen Neil Young, and he's one of my favorites. I'm going to say a band that we want to tour with is a band called Bad Sons. I think they're sick.
Oh, yeah.
And then I guess I can go selfishly again. Or actually just for the sake of having some friends and familiarity on the tour. We've toured with Taking Back Sunday quite a few times, and they're always an awesome hang and an incredible band. So it's a tie between them and Good Charlotte. When we toured with Good Charlotte back in the day, it was like they have such a command of the crowd and such a way of sort of putting on such an insane show. So yeah, it's that's an eclectic list for sure.
So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be an interesting one for sure.
It's an interesting show. I'm not sure anybody would appreciate it other than me. So
no, I'd buy a ticket for that tour, definitely.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I guess we could probably wrap this up now. Unless you guys have anything.
No,
else.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
cool,
John. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It's been really cool. And,
sorry about my dog. That's my bad.
That's all right.
Don't be silly, man. Yeah, we didn't even notice. Sorry about our technical hiccups at the start.
No. It's all good. Thank you guys again, man.
Yeah, look forward to hearing the record, and hopefully, see you over here. Hopefully, maybe this year at some point.
I'm hoping to. Absolutely.
Fingers crossed as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Can't wait for you to arrive, and I can't wait for you to arrive.